What about the sports town feel? You mentioned, hey, those East Coast cities, they've been around a long time. They have long-standing, diehard fan bases. Did you get that feeling when you came here, or has that feeling had to grow over time?
No, I didn't get that feeling at all. And, Seattle had the reputation of just backing winners. I mean, come on, I was back in Detroit watching the Tigers play the Mariners at 10:30 at night back in Michigan, and there's nobody in the Kingdome. It's empty. And it's like, it's you can see this team is struggling. The fans aren't backing them. And then all of a sudden they get some stars and the fans start coming around because they want to see these stars perform. So, that part of it, no, Seattle sports fans, I've always had that reputation of being fair weather. And over the last 30 years, they've gone from maybe down here on the spectrum to up here now because Pete Carroll era has been awesome for the Seahawks and all their fans. And the Sounders fans are so darn loyal. They stand the whole game in this pouring rain. And it's just, I love the fact that, I will say that over the last 10 years, I think the Seattle sports fan base has risen in credibility for sure. I mean, they're not just fair weather fans anymore. They support their teams. And I'm not just saying that, I've watched it. I already told you they were not those kind of fans in that first decade I was here. But as time went on and they started caring more about their teams because there's a lot more passion in this town about some of these teams. And, and it shows. So that's another thing that makes our job fun. When we get to go to the ballpark, you guys have been there, you know how much fun it is to go into a place when it's packed. And I will say this, man, there's nothing more fun to me than a Mariners Blue Jays series at T-Mobile Park. I mean, those Canadian fans come down there, they support that team, and it's like just bam, bam, bam for 3 or 4 games over a weekend. That is an awesome atmosphere. People, you can have the Yankees, you can have the Red Sox. When the Blue Jays come to Seattle, to me, that's the best series of the summer.
So we did some fan interviews, throughout the year, but with Blue Jays fans specifically when they were in town. And the best one we got all year was from some crazy Blue Jays fan that was out in the pen, and he was ripping the Mariners and saying they were garbage, and he was saying like this is our home park and all this stuff. And if that isn't that series in a nutshell, then I don't know what is. Because I'm with you. Like, Yankee fans flood in for those series. Dodger fans flood in. Red Sox fans, etc. It's just different when it's the Blue Jays because you don't hear like the media and fans around the ballpark saying when those other teams come into the park, it's like, oh, like they're taking over. Like, they have fans, but they don't take over. Those Blue Jays fans like legitimately take over, and they flock down for that series. So I'm with you. Like, that series every year feels like a playoff series.
Yeah, totally. I mean, people come here to watch the Yankee stars. I mean, Toronto they have some young stars now, but they didn't back in the day. And the Yankees always have, 3 or 4 big names guys coming into town. Red Sox too, Dodgers, of course. A lot of Giants fans come up and watch their team play. But there's nothing like, listen, I roomed with a couple of hockey players at Bowling Green, and watching Canadian fans and watching that happen, man, those guys were all in, and you watch their baseball fans come to town and they are all in. So it's fun to be around for sure. And I swear by that series every year for sure.
Okay, Paul, deep thinking question. What's your favorite story you've done?
Come on, man. I've been here for 30 years. You think I can just rattle off my favorite story? Let me see.
How about...
I told you. Go ahead.
How about favorite Mariner story? How's that?
Well, I already gave you my favorite. I think one of my favorite stories is this. Because when Griffey was here, he would always, I'll just, I don't mind just telling you how it is. But when Griffey was here at first, when he first got here and I first got here, I would watch him turn down interview after interview after interview. And it wouldn't be the nicest turn down either. It'd be, sometimes laced with a curse word or something. And we would be sitting there going, why doesn't this guy want to talk? And one time I got tired of it. And I said, because, at one point it's kind of man to man. It's just like, hey, man, I walked up to him, I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, what's the deal? So why don't you want to talk to us? As he was walking back in the dugout. And I had my photographer with me, and he said, what? And I said, we're not going to sit here and do a documentary on you. We're not going to grill you. There's nothing to grill you about. We just want to have a few questions with you before the game. We're not going to ask you every game for an interview, but every homestand maybe we have a quick interview with you. And I was trying to just talk to him, and he stopped and he turned around. He says, okay, what do you want to know? And from that point on, I was able to sit with him in the dugout. And this is not me blowing my horn at all. This is about you going up to a grown man and saying, hey, grown young man, and saying, hey, man, what's the problem? And calling him out on it. And he basically saw that and realized he was being, kind of a jerk and changed his tune. And from that point on, we had a mutual respect with each other. Look, we're not going to I'm not going to his house for a birthday party or going out for drinks for him. I don't want to be his pal. I just want to be able to work with him because fans want to hear from him. And from that point on, we set up a lot of different interviews prior to game day where I would say, I'm meeting in the dugout at 2:30 before you start stretching. And he'd say, cool. So we would go in the dugout and I'd meet him for an interview and we'd get it done. And that'd be that. And it would only be 3 or 4 questions. That's all. It's not a documentary, like I said. So, and that allowed me to go to his house in Florida and do a half-hour special with him and his wife. And so that turned into a half-hour special that ran on a Sunday night. And back then, there weren't a lot of choices on television, so it got good numbers because, like I said, now there's millions of choices out there. So we did a half-hour special with Griffey, and he said, I wanted to sit down with Melissa, his wife, and ask her some interviews, just some corny interview questions like husband-wife stuff. And he said, if you beat me in pool, I'll let you talk to her. Well, it turns out he stinks at pool. I'm bad at pool, but he stunk at pool. And I was like, once he started taking shots, I'm like, oh, I got this guy for sure. On my worst day, I could beat him in pool. And I think he knew that. So I beat him in pool, and I got to sit down on the couch with his wife and talk to her about him. And so if that was a cool moment for me, being able to do that.
Do you think just you being kind of like brash is what resonated with him when you kind of got on a good term with him all the way back when?
Yeah, I think there's too many people that walk around on eggshells. Lou Piniella scared me, man. I mean, I even after a win, I was afraid to ask him a question, but he was a scary dude, an intimidating guy. And I saw him blow up a couple times after losses. I didn't want any part of that. Same with Bob Knight. I love Bob Knight, but I'm glad I never had to work with him and in the Indiana basketball program because, man, I would be intimidated for sure. But with Griffey, for some reason, I just I knew I was going to be in this town for a while. I knew he was going to be in this town for a while. I'm like, this is not the way it should be. And he was cool with it. It's not like I called him out. And he was just kind of like stopped and made him think for a second about what he was talking about. And he actually became good friends with my photographer, who was, less intimidating and less intrusive to Griffey. He's like, and Jay Buhner was tight with my photographer, Scott McLaughlin. And Scotty started getting all these guys' phone numbers and just chatting with them all the time off camera. And I remember Jay Buhner, after winning a playoff game, he came up and did a post-game show with us. And I said, hey, Jay, thanks for coming on. And Jay and I are friends and became friends after this. But he said, don't thank me, thank Scotty. And I'm like, okay, because he came on because of our photographer, because he respected Scotty, and he came on to our show. And that's how that all started. That's how my relationship with Jay Buhner started. So it's cool to see, like, even my present-day photographer, Alan Reed, he'll go to Seahawks, he'll go to Mariners, he'll go to training camp, he'll go to spring training. They all know him. They don't know me from squat, but they might know me a little bit from the guy on TV, but they know Alan because he's at practice all the time. And that's cool. It's cool to watch that relationship. Alan can go up to Julio Rodriguez before a game and say, hey, Julio, can we talk to you real quick? No problem at all, because he feels like he knows him. So that's kind of a long-winded response to your question, but it's just kind of cool how this whole sports world works. You got to be cool. You can't be a jerk. You just have to be authentic. I always tell people, just be authentic. Like when I saw you guys at the ballpark that day, it's like, I genuinely was interested in what you had to say in your podcast and everything that you're doing now. And it's cool to see young people going out and starting those things and taking the bull by the horns and being aggressive and hungry and wanting to start things from the ground up. That's a credit to you guys. And it's a cool thing to learn about and hear about. And so it's just all about being authentic. If you're authentic, I was authentic that day with Ken Griffey Jr. I wasn't going to kiss his butt. And I was just authentic, and he saw that. And he's like, this guy seems genuine. I'll talk to him. That's how I believe that happened.